Ask most Christians what Daniel 7 is about, and you get the same answer. The second coming, beast coming out of the water, chaos, judgment, and then Jesus riding on the clouds, coming back to rescue the church. That's how I heard it preached. You probably did too. But here's the problem. Daniel never watches anyone leave earth. He doesn't see the Son of Man take off and come back. He sees the Son of Man arrive in a throne room in front of God. Not a departure, an arrival. Not a rescue mission, a coronation. Only one kind of being rides the clouds, and Daniel just watched a human figure do it. This isn't a rapture chart. This is enthronement. And we've been reading Daniel 7 backwards for 2,000 years. In our last video, I showed you a figure hidden in an ancient Jewish text, a Son of Man enthroned as judge over the nations. The video's linked right here if you haven't seen it. But that book's not scripture. Daniel is. And Daniel sees the same kind of figure, a human being walking into the presence of God and receiving authority over every nation on earth. So today, we're going to let Daniel tell us what he saw. I want to show you a title. One that shows up across the Old Testament, and it only belongs to one person. Psalm 68:4, sing to God, sing praises to his name, lift up a song to him who rides through the clouds. Cloud rider. That's not a weather report, that's a title. That's an identity marker for the God of Israel. Look at Psalm 104:3. God makes the clouds his chariot. Isaiah 19:1. The Lord rides on a swift cloud and comes to Egypt. Three texts, same picture. Cloud rider means God, Yahweh. No angel gets it, no prophet, no king. That title belongs to God alone. Hold on to that. In 1929, there's a farmer in northern Syria, and he hit something with his plow, a buried tomb. It led to the discovery of this ancient city called Ugaritic. This was a civilization that thrived over 1,000 years before Christ. They pulled thousands of clay tablets out of the ground, stories about the gods that Israel grew up next to. One god had a specific title, Baal, the storm god. His personal title, carved into the clay, was Rakib Aparti, rider of the clouds. Does that sound familiar? Psalm 68:4. Almost the same phrase, letter for letter, same title, same words, different God. Israel's writers didn't invent this title. They took it. They stripped it off Baal and they nailed it to Yahweh. This is a war trophy, a conquered name. This is the ancient equivalent of trash talk. They're saying Baal is nothing. The real cloud rider is Yahweh, and he's the only one. And for centuries, that title stayed locked. One God, one rider, no exceptions. And then Daniel has a vision. Daniel 7 verses 9 through 14. Verse 9, thrones were set in place. Thrones, plural, more than one seat in this room. The Ancient of Days takes his seat, white clothing, white hair, fiery throne, thousands upon thousands worshiping him. This is a courtroom and council is in session. I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. Read that direction again. He came to the Ancient of Days. He was presented before him. He came with the clouds. That's the cloud rider title. The one that belongs to Yahweh alone. The one stripped from Baal, locked on to God for centuries. And Daniel just gave it to someone else. Not the Ancient of Days, a second figure, one that looks like a human. And this figure doesn't ride the clouds away from heaven. He rides them to the Ancient of Days. He approaches the throne. He's not leaving. He's arriving. And what does he receive when he gets there? Look at verse 14. And to him who was given dominion and glory and a kingdom that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away. Authority, glory, a kingdom. Every nation forever. That's not a rescue mission. It's a coronation. Someone who looks human walks into the throne room of God, riding a title that belongs to God alone, and he receives everything. The cloud rider title says who he is. The direction says what's happening. Let's go back to the trial in Mark 14. Caiaphas asks Jesus, are you the Messiah? Jesus answers, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds. Coming with the clouds. That's Daniel 7:13. And if Daniel 7:13 is an arrival, not a departure, then Jesus isn't predicting the distant future. He's claiming the throne right now. And that phrase, you will see, in Greek it's plural. He's not just talking to Caiaphas. He's talking to the whole Sanhedrin. But check this out. Matthew's version of this scene adds two words that Mark doesn't have. Ap arti, which means from now on. Not someday, not at the end of the age, from now on, starting here, starting tonight. So what did they see? Think about it. They handed this man over to Rome. Matthew tells us that the chief priests were at the cross mocking him. They watched him hang there. They watched him die. They thought they were watching a criminal being executed. And the Sanhedrins aren't the only one that saw a death that day. John was there too, standing close enough that Jesus looked at him and told him to take care of his mother. John saw the spear go into his side. He saw the blood and water come out. He watched them take his body down. And 60 years later, John's on Patmos, exiled, and he has a vision. What he sees looks a lot like Daniel 7. Same throne, same thousands upon thousands, but John sees something that Daniel never described. Revelation 5, there is a scroll in the hand of the one on the throne. It's sealed with 7 seals. Nobody can open it, and John starts weeping. And then one of the elders says, "Don't weep. The Lion of the tribe of Judah has triumphed." John looks up, but he doesn't see a lion. He sees a lamb standing at the center of the throne, looking as if it had been slain. A slaughtered lamb still standing, the wounds still on his body, the marks of the killing still visible. And this lamb isn't beside the throne. He's right there in the center of it. John saw those wounds before. He saw them at the cross. He saw the spear go in and the blood come out. And now, 60 years later, God has pulled back the curtain and he shows him what's happening on the other side. The lamb takes the scroll. The elders fall down. Thousands cry out, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise." Power, glory, every nation. That's Daniel 7:14. Same throne room, same authority. But now we can see who's sitting in the seat. And he still has the wounds. The slaying didn't disqualify him from the throne. The slaying's what put him there. The cross is the coronation. So let's put all this together. Enoch saw a son of man named before the sun, concealed in the presence of God, seated on the throne of glory. Daniel saw a figure riding on the clouds, a title that belongs to God alone, approaching the Ancient of Days and receiving authority over every nation. John saw a lamb slaughtered but standing at the center of the throne, still carrying the scars, the same wounds he watched happen with his own eyes one Friday afternoon. And the Sanhedrin, the chief priests at the foot of the cross, they watched the lamb being slain. What looked like an execution on earth was a coronation in heaven. Enoch saw it, Daniel saw it, John saw it from both sides, and the Sanhedrin saw it from the ground floor. From now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power. And they did. They watched it happen on a cross outside Jerusalem. They just didn't know what they were looking at. And if you made it to the end of this video, you are the kind of person I built this newsletter for. Every week, we go deeper into passages that they may have skipped or the books that got cut out, looking for the story behind the story. The link's in the description, so grab the free Son of Man case file from last week's video while you're there. Every Son of Man saying in the gospel, side by side with the Enoch parallels and the Daniel 7 connection. I'll see you in the next one. God bless you.